NFL Week 11 predictions. Though filming this during the NFL Week 10 Sunday Night Football games, I don't know all the results yet. But you have your first Thursday nighter, an actual good Thursday night game. The Bengals versus the Ravens. Both teams coming off upset losses. Bengals to the Texans and the Ravens to the Browns. Both these teams they lost in crushing game-winning field goals, and I'm not sure which team can bounce back better. Ravens this year have looked really good. Their defense has been one of the best, and their offense has been good and efficient, but nothing dominant. While the Bengals, they've looked a lot better. I think their offense continues to be really good, even against the Texans. The Bengals defense though has been playing good, not great this season. It's a divisional game, so really hard to predict. It's gonna be a tight matchup regardless. Both teams are really good, but I think Ravens with home field advantage will give them that edge, especially on a short week. So I'm gonna give the Ravens the game here. Then you have the Dolphins versus the Raiders. Raiders currently playing now while the Dolphins coming off a bye. Raiders with their new coach might bring new energy, but I just don't think the Raiders defense is that talented. While the Dolphins, even though they have struggled versus good teams, but against bad team like the Raiders' bad defense, I think the Dolphins will thrive. They have a very speedy offense. A-Chain should be back, and the Dolphins' defense I think has been playing a lot better. And the Dolphins play great at home, and I expect them to slow down the Raiders' offense. So I'm gonna take the Dolphins here. We have the Browns versus the Steelers. Both teams coming off wins. Steelers against the Packers, while the Browns versus the Ravens. Both teams with a great defense. Actually, the Steelers' defense this year has not been that good. Now that I think about it, the Steelers, I don't know how they keep on winning. Their team isn't that good. Their defense outside of T.J. Watt's not that good. Kenny Pickett, Don G's not that good either. While the Browns, I think they have a great defense. And their offense has looked better with Deshaun Watson back, so I gotta take the Browns here. I don't think the Steelers can keep BSing their way into wins. Then you have the Jaguars versus the Titans. Jaguars coming off just a blowout loss versus the Niners, while the Titans they're coming off a loss against the Bucks. Jaguars they were bad versus the Niners. They were just bad, and the Jaguars, like I said, the Jaguars have not played up to their full potential this year. While the Titans, Will Levis played all right, but Titans, their team is just not talented. Their defense regressed. Their offensive line is bad. Um, Jaguars with talent, regardless, should win this game, but definitely a potential trap game for the Jaguars. But I'm not gonna predict. I gotta still take the Jaguars here. Then you have the Bills versus the Jets. A rematch from Week 1. This time Bills have home field advantage. Jets currently playing now while the Bills play on Monday night. Jets. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be back. Jets have a really talented, great top 5 defense, but their offense is horrible. While the Bills, their defense has gotten worse, but I trust the Bills' offense. I gotta take the Bills here. The Jets' offense is just too much of a liability. Then you have the Cardinals versus the Texans. Texans coming off a win against the Bengals, while the Cardinals coming off a win against the Falcons. Cardinals with Kyler Murray, they looked better, but Falcons aren't a good team. While the Texans, I think with C.J. Stroud, their offense has looked a lot better. The Texans' defense, though, I think leaves a lot to be desired. But with home field advantage and a better offense, I'm going to take the Texans here. Then you have the Packers versus the Chargers. Chargers coming off a shootout loss versus the Lions, while the Packers coming off a close loss versus the Steelers. Packers still are not a good team. They did play better versus the Steelers, but I think Packers defense has been kind of a disappointment this year, and their offense just hasn't been that good. While the Chargers, to me, I think the Chargers offense has looked better these last couple of weeks, while their defense is still kind of bad. But Packers do have home field advantage, so I expect this game to be close. But I'm gonna take the Chargers offense here. Then you have the Broncos versus the Vikings. Broncos play on Monday now, while the Vikings come off a win against the Saints. Vikings, surprisingly, Justin Jefferson should be back, but even without JJ, or Vikings offense has been surprisingly good, and their defense hasn't been that bad either. While the Broncos, I think their offense has also looked good, but their defense looks bad, but have been playing better. I'm not sure if the Broncos are going to carry that momentum into this game or not. This game I think is going to be a good game, good close game, and I think with Broncos home field advantage, I expect regression from that Vikings offense, so I'm going to take the Broncos here. Then you have the Monday Nighter, Eagles versus the Chiefs. First, both coming off byes, and Chiefs still do have home field advantage. Chiefs, I think their defense has been one of the top defenses this year, but their offense really not that good. Mahomes has not played that good. Their wide receivers are bad, and their run game is at best average. While the Eagles, their defense has played okay. Their defensive line has been great, but their secondary has been bad. But I think the Eagles' offense is starting to find their way. They've been doing a lot better, and with the way the Chiefs' offense is right now, I have to take the Eagles. It's a Super Bowl rematch as well. Then you have the Lions versus the Bears. Bears, they are coming off a win against the Panthers, but they're just not a good team, even with Justin Fields most likely back. While the Lions, I think their offense is too good. Their offense is way too explosive. I gotta take the Lions here. Then you have the Panthers coming off a loss against the Bears, while against the Cowboys, who's coming off a dominant win versus the Giants. Panthers, they just don't have the offensive talent. They just don't have the talent on offense to keep up with a team like the Cowboys. And the Panthers' defense hasn't been bad this year, but their running game is running defense is a real liability. While the Cowboys, their defense has been great this season, and Dak Prescott has been lights out these last couple of weeks, so I gotta take the Cowboys here, not a question. Then you have the Commanders versus the Giants. Giants, they're just bad. Giants are just horrible. I do think the Giants' defense is decent, but their offense is horrible. While the Commanders, at least Sam Howell is doing good. Had a last-second loss to the Seahawks. I'm gonna take the Commanders here. It is a divisional game, so Commanders better watch out, but Commanders all the way. Then you have the Niners versus the Buccaneers. Niners finally snapped that losing streak versus the Titans, while the same thing with the Niners. They snapped the losing game streak versus the Jaguars. Buccaneers can definitely be a trap game for the Niners. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield has played really well. Mike Evans has played really well, but that Bucs defense is very bad. While the Niners, Brock Purdy finally did good. Niners are too much of a talented team. I'm taking the Niners here. Then you have the Rams versus the Seahawks. Definitely a potential trap game for the Seahawks. This is a divisional game. The Rams coming off a bye. Rams aren't the most talented team, but they have played opponents really tough. Their defense isn't anything special. Their offense really isn't anything special. But they have played people tough this year. But they're starting Carson Wentz, and I think the Seahawks defense has been getting better this season But I do believe the Seahawks offense is kind of shaky, but I don't trust Carson Wentz at all, so I'm going to take the Seahawks here. So there you have it, my NFL Week 11 predictions.